On today's episode, an ESPN talk show host called for everyone in the Wizards organization to be fired. We are here to counter that and explain why it is crucial for the Wizards to tank one last time. All that and more on today's Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, what is going on? I'm your host, Abdullah Ayubi, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network out there. My name is Abdullah Ayubi, credential media member of the Washington Wizards, and I am here joined by the great Greg Finberg. No Ben Strober, you can see he is unfortunately out with an injury. He's feeling he's under the weather right now. We're hoping and praying for a speedy and healthy recovery for Ben. But Greg, Bullets Forever, host of the Wizards podcast. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Always a pleasure to join you, AB. Hopefully Ben gets rested up and recovered because we miss him over here at Locked On Wizards. But I'm always excited even to join my friend here, AB, who's going to do a good job hosting today. And a different topic than we usually, I think, dive into. But very interesting comments from Tony Kornheiser. I'm sure it'll make for a pretty fun conversation today.
Yeah, it definitely spurred Wizards Twitter when he made that rant on ESPN. On today's show, we're going to talk about Kornheiser's rant and how we think he is terribly wrong. We're also going to talk about a potential solution for tanking. That's been a discourse on all over NBA Twitter, and also previewing All-Star Weekend. Bub Carrington is replacing Alex Sarr as a rising star. So let's get straight into it. Host Tony Kornheiser of Pardon the Interruption on ESPN, Greg, went on a rant talking about how the Wizards organization, the front office, a lot of them should be fired for tanking for about 3 years now and not understanding the basic concept of a rebuild. And I'm going to pull up the exact audio right now.
They are 14-38 this year. In the last 3 years, they're 47 and 169. Everybody should be fired. Nobody has been fired because this is obviously the plan. They just traded healthy players for Trae Young and Anthony Davis, big names who are hurt, haven't played a minute. I'm not sure they will ever play a minute for the Wizards. I'm just not sure about that. And I think fans of this team, if there are any fans left, should bring a class action suit for fraud on the part of the Wizards for selling season tickets and not ever attempting to win.
So, Greg, you hear that. What do you think of it?
I mean, you got to first start. I think Tony has the credentials to be able to talk about the Wizards and about DC sports. He worked the Post for nearly 30 years, and he's been doing PTI for a while now. He's a legend in the game, and I think he has every right to share his opinion. But it is my opinion that his opinion is very incorrect, and it's out of touch. It's one thing to say that this team should be winning more games and that they're intentionally losing, but it seems like Tony knows why. He mentioned it in the thing. It seems like it's the plan to lose all these games. So if you know that it's the plan to lose all these games, then why are you acting? Why are you pretending as if it's this big thing that should have everybody fired? You just mentioned they're trying to lose as many games as possible. The draft very high in the lottery, and they're doing so, and you're somehow getting upset about it. It seems like Tony's rant is like if a person went into a coma after the 2022-23 season and then woke up today or yesterday and realized they were one of the worst teams in the league the last 3 years without knowing why they were there. Maybe you still think that Tommy Shepard's the GM here. Maybe you still think that Ted Leonsis' mindset is we will never, ever tank, because Tony's rant is from someone back then who thinks the Wizards aren't doing what they should be doing to win games, and because of that, people should be fired. Tony knows exactly what the plan is. He knows what the Wizards are trying to do, and it seems like it's just a forced rant. They don't talk about the Wizards pretty much, if ever, on that show, even at all on that show. And now one of the first times they talk about it, it's not that the rebuild's going well. It's not that they're going to have 3 guys plus another one now in the Rising Stars game. It's not that they just acquired 2 All-NBA players. This is the rant that they decide on. The rant of this team should be winning more games. Everyone should be fired. I mean, the GM is getting active praise from pretty much everybody for all of the moves that he's made, all of the draft picks that he's made, for getting Anthony Davis without giving up any of his own draft capital. And then you have Tony Kornheiser over here who's saying that guy should be fired, who's saying Michael Winger, president of Monumental Basketball, should be fired. Like, you know why they were brought in here. They were brought in here to deconstruct it all, to rebuild, to lose a lot of games in that time. They're doing all of that, and you're saying that they need to be fired. It seems like, I mean, again, I don't know how many times Tony Kornheiser has watched this team over the 3 years he's discussing that they've lost all those games. I would wager it's probably sub 10, sub 15 games in total that he's watched of this team. And for those reasons, like, I think it's just out of touch. It seems like he knows why they're losing, and again, won't comment accordingly because he knows what the reason is. And then the one thing that he said, he doesn't think Trae Young and Anthony Davis will ever play a minute for the Wizards. I mean, again, it's another instance of him being out of touch with everything that's going on. If he had done a little research, if he had looked into it more, he would have known that less than a week ago, Will Dawkins said that it's highly likely that both Anthony Davis and Trae Young play not only in the future for the Wizards, but this season. Even though they're acquired with injuries, he expects them to play this season. Trae Young has been working out with Wizards gear. He's been, integrating himself into not only the team, but it's the community with some of the stuff he's been wearing. He's actively said that he wants to be in DC, that he pushed for a trade to be here in DC. If you had done any research, you would have known that Trae Young wants to be in DC. He has a player option next year, and he'll probably play definitely at least one game for the Wizards and more. And again, they just traded 5 picks for Anthony Davis, and you think he's not going to play a game for the Wizards. Like, it's a forced rant. It seems like it's a rant from somebody that has been out of touch with the team for the last 3 years, which I'm sure Tony has. I don't blame him. It's not like they're good or worth covering for a lot of people. But if you're going to rant like that, if you're going to come out here and say that people should lose their jobs, I think you should at least be in touch with what's going on in the situation. You should at least have some semblance of understanding of a rebuild and tanking and what they're trying to accomplish over the last 3 years. And it seems like Tony had none of that when he decided to make a lot of the comments.
Yeah, it's frustrating because I love Tony Kornheiser. I love his work, and he has the credibility, like you mentioned. But outside of Anthony Davis and Trae Young, how many Wizards can he name? It gets to a point where everyone just loves taking a shot at the Wizards. You're the NBA punching bag, and you're hoping that perception changes. And again, you don't talk about the Wizards' lottery luck. I mean, last year, the Dallas Mavericks won 40 games, and they ended up with Cooper Flag. It was less than 1% shot. And time and again, the Wizards just don't land that blue chip guy. And today's NBA, you need that guy. And to call out all the front office to be fired, did you not see that the Wizards traded for AD and Trae Young for a bag of pennies? They didn't give up anything. I just don't get it. And if you're going to point at the Wizards when it comes to tanking, there are other teams out there, Greg, that are also tanking. And it's frustrating because, again, how much weight can you hold from that rant? It just doesn't make any sense if you understood the history of what this team's trying to do, and that right now they're probably in their best spot since 2016 when it comes to turning the corner. So it just gets to a point where, as a Wizards fan, you just have to block out the noise and not listen, because next year things are going to be different. You want to see Tony Kornheiser watch this team next year because you're hoping to land a top 5 pick. You're also hoping to get a healthy AD, Trae Young, year 3 of Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, and year 2 of Trey Johnson. It just gets to a point, Greg, where it's just frustrating, but it is what it is. We're used to the hate.
Yeah, I mean, that was my biggest thing is, like, the team came out a couple years ago when Will Dawkins took over as GM, when Michael Winger was hired, and they said, we're going to trade Beal, we're going to trade KP, we're probably going to end up trading some of our other guys, and we're going to deconstruct this entire thing, and we're going to build it from the ground up, because the people that were doing it before us were just throwing things at the wall and hoping that they stuck, and they were just looking for, solutions for the short term and not looking to contend for the long term. And so they've done exactly what they said they were going to do across the 3-year deconstruction phase. So there's one holdover from when they took over, and that's Anthony Gill. They made a bunch of trades, a lot of smart moves. Some trades obviously weren't as good as others, but they set out with a goal, with the backing of the owner, to tank and to lose a lot of games, to get good draft picks. And they've not only hit, as it seems, on a lot of those draft picks, but they've also made quality trades. They've managed their assets really well to where they're set up, I think, with a healthy team to compete next year. And they still have all of their future assets, all their future picks after making 2 trades for Trae Young and Anthony Davis. Like, if you ask most people about the Wizards, they're going to have pretty positive reviews about how they've gone about this deconstruction phase and how they've gone about this rebuild. And so when you see a guy like Tony Kornheiser, who barely, if ever, talks about the Wizards the last couple of years, finally come out of the closet and start talking about him now. And he's just completely incorrect in everything that he says. Like you mentioned, AB, it's frustrating to see the discourse around the team, especially from someone like Tony, who obviously has been around the game for a while. That it seems like he knows what they're doing, but just refuses to acknowledge that that's what they're trying to do, just because that helps prove his point, or whatever point he had entering that rant, that the Wizards will never be anything. They'll continue to meddle in mediocrity. That's what they used to be. They're trying to turn the page now and not be that type of mediocre team. And it seems like Tony is still stuck in the past of those mediocre ways. And again, I think it's just out of touch. It seems like it's coming from somebody that doesn't really understand what's at stake, or is at least choosing to just not understand something that he probably should be understanding with how long he's been around the game.
Yeah, and it's just funny, Greg, because fans, when the Wizards were in purgatory, would say, right, like non-Wizards fans would be like, "Oh, they should tank. What are they doing? They're stuck in the middle. Why shoot for the play-in?" But now, when you are taking, it's like, "What are you doing? It's rooting the integrity of the game," and it doesn't make any sense. But we move on. Next, before we come back, we'll talk about a solution to tanking. Is there any solution? Find out next. Today's episode of Locked On Wizards is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever. Just hand off a few things and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get to you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen today, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our Everydayer Club. Access to ad-free feed for Locked On Wizards compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. Me and Ben will be there. We'll talk Wizards. We'll talk tanking. We'll talk about Tony Kornheiser's latest comments. Make sure you go to lockedonwizards.supercast.com to check it out. Greg, we're back on the topic of tanking, and we're hoping that this is the last year we talk about it, because next year, and hopefully for years to come, we don't see the Tankathon app on our search history. Is there a solution? Ben talked about, Greg, how you would allow the worst bottom 3 teams in the league to have an equal shot of landing the #1 pick. I had a funny suggestion from a friend where it was like, you have a tournament to see who gets it. Obviously, that's not realistic, but is there any way to get out of this flawed system, or it's just inevitable?
Honestly, I don't have any type of big brain solution. Like I've seen the tournaments. There were some New York Times columnists that doesn't even do sports that recommended that you do the reverse order. So like the team at the end of the lottery would get the first pick, and the worst team would get the worst pick in the lottery, which I think is one of the dumbest solutions I've ever seen in my life. I don't like the lottery. And I said this last year before the lottery and after the Wizards got hosed, the Jazz got hosed in the lottery, and other teams did as well. I don't like the system. I realistically think that it should just go by record. Like, you're tanking. You have teams that are tanking anyway. Again, like, the NBA has decided that they will not punish blatant tanking. Like, you can't come out and explicitly say that the Utah Jazz threw that game when they played the Orlando Magic. They tried their best to do so and succeeded in doing so. They tried it against the Heat and didn't work. And it's not just them. The Wizards tried to lose against the Kings by benching their starters, tried to lose against Detroit by benching their starters, and they were just unlucky, and somehow they found ways to win. Like, these teams are pretty blatantly tanking, and it seems like everybody but the NBA, but Adam Silver, can see that, or at least that the NBA has no intentions of punishing it. And if that's the case and you're fine with it, you're going to continue to allow it to happen regardless of if you have a lottery system or not. The lottery is in play primarily to prevent tanking. It's to prevent teams from being as bad as they are, because it doesn't guarantee that they're going to get the pick that they probably deserve. But in the NFL, they don't have this problem. And now it's fewer games and it's a way more violent sport to the point where you can't really, half effort something in the NFL. You're going to get destroyed. You're going to get hurt. So you can't really play lazy or bench guys. Like there's too much respect in the game for them to do that. The NBA has lost that respect. And so when you get into an 82 game season, it's definitely different. But if it were me, I would do what the NFL does. I mean, if you're the worst team, you get the number one pick. You saw the Commanders 2 years ago. They were the second worst team in the league. And then they went to the NFC Championship the next year because they needed a quarterback. They needed an impact player. And that one player, that one pick, changed the entire trajectory of their franchise. And they needed that pick way more than a team that finished with the 10th or 11th worst record needed that pick. They needed Jaden Daniels way more than anybody else. And they got him. You see the Bears in 2 years, they were almost at that exact spot with Caleb, and they almost made the NFC Championship game this year. In the NFL, teams, if you draft right, can turn their entire franchise around because the picks are there for the teams. The best picks are there for the teams that are the worst and that need the most help. The Mavericks did not need Cooper Flagg. They did not deserve Cooper Flagg, but the lottery system, being as flawed as it is, rewarded them for their incompetence with Cooper Flagg. Imagine Utah, who, again, was the worst team, had taken Cooper Flagg because they were the worst team. Utah would be in contention for the playoffs, 100%. They wouldn't be tanking. They would be right back in and after a year or two of being bad. The Wizards get Dylan Harper, and I love Trey Johnson, but if they get Dylan Harper, everything about their franchise changes, and they're probably competing this year way more than they were because they got a player they needed. And the list goes on. I mean, you don't give the Spurs Wemby because they didn't deserve Wemby. Like, the worst teams can't get out of the bottom if you have a lottery system that rewards things randomly, that doesn't give them the players they need to get out of this hole, especially small market teams. Like, there's a reason that OKC had a big period of nothingness once they traded KD and Russ. They can't attract free agents to Oklahoma. So they had to make some smart trades, and they had to draft really well, and they did just that. They tanked, but they did it. Now, Washington, not the best market in terms of attracting free agents. Utah, certainly not the greatest market. Like, those teams rely on the draft, or at least in the past have relied on the draft to be successful. And when you're not allowing that to happen and you're going year after year after year of these teams not getting the number one pick, they're just going to continue to be at the bottom of the league. Versus if you reward them with these great players like they deserve, they'll be out of the bottom in 1 to 2 years of tanking. And so you're always going to have these teams, like 5 or 6 teams in the bottom maybe, that are going to try to lose. And that's because they're incentivized to do so. But at least there'll be a bigger turnaround. And you got to hope that the more turnaround there is, the lesser and lesser and lesser of these teams there are, the more parity there is in the league that slowly tanking is filtered out of the league. Now, I do think the dialogue around it's ridiculous. Like, you shouldn't get mad at the teams for tanking when there's the incentive built in to do so. Like, you're not going to punish the Jazz. They're blatantly tanking. They're not going to punish them. Jaren Jackson just played really good those 3 games. Now he's out for the year because of some surgery that they said he needed now and couldn't wait for. AD, Trae Young, same thing for the Wizards. Zubats isn't going to play for the Pacers for a while. Like, every team at the bottom is doing it in their own way, and they're not going to get punished for it. And the people that get hurt the most are the fans and in the league. But if the league seems like they're not going to do anything about it. So if it were me, I'm just going by reverse order of record. And if you're the worst team, you get the number one pick. And that way, I think you kind of eliminate tanking, at least prolonged tanking from some of these teams.
Do you think, Greg, this topic of discussion is so heated knowing how loaded the draft class is coming up? Because if this was the 2024 draft class, I don't think we'd be talking this much about Zachary Reese-Shea.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a really good point, AB. It's a great draft class. It's actually phenomenal. It's one of the best we've seen in years. And last year's was really good as well. But this year, it seems like it's just elite. Some of the players that are being talked about, outside even the top 5 are generational players that can change a franchise. And so, like, certainly that's the case. I also think protected picks do not help at all. Like, the Jazz and the Wizards have been the most blatant tankers this year. And by no surprise, like, they have top 8 protected picks. They're trying to position themselves in the best spot to either guarantee they can't lose their pick or make it incredibly difficult odds-wise for them to lose their pick. Because, yes, like, a lot of these teams are tanking to get better draft positioning, but I don't think the tanking from Washington and Utah would be as egregious if they didn't have these protections to, on their picks that they needed to protect. It's why Philadelphia was the most egregious tanker last year. And so I think protections is another thing you can take out of the game, which would probably end up helping tanking. But I mean, certainly the draft class being this good, everybody wants a shot to take one of these guys. Everyone wants a chance to get the number one pick, to get a guy like Darren Peterson or Cameron Boozer, or AJ DeBanso, or even, other guys like Caleb Wilson. Like, they all want the best shot to get some of these players. And the worse you are, again, doesn't guarantee you get the top pick, but it eliminates some of the places you could fall to. Like, if the Wizards are the worst team in the league, they can't fall outside the top 5. Why wouldn't they want to do that? All the incentive is there to lose more games than to win. And that's on the NBA. But I think it's a really good point, AB. Like, it's a phenomenal draft class. And everyone wants a shot to be able to take someone they want, especially Utah and Washington, who have tanked for a while. They have a lot of good pieces, but like, do they have the guy? And I don't know if either of them can say they do. And this is a draft class that they can go ahead and get that guy.
It's just fascinating, Greg, how a couple of ping pong balls dictate your favorite team's franchise destiny. It's a system that I don't think is going to change, but I think the topic of discussion is going to heat up as we head into the NBA draft lottery. When we come back, we're going to preview All-Star Weekend. Thank God it's a break for us Wizards fans. We'll come back. Today's episode of Locked On Wizards is brought to you by ZocDoc. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone who's in network, nearby, and has availability, but you also want a doctor who listens and makes you feel comfortable and explain things clearly. That kind of doctor exists, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love without all the hassle. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states, covering over 200 specialties from primary care and dentistry to dermatology and eye care. I'll admit it, I definitely put off doctor appointments. I'm getting older, so I got to do it myself. I can't rely on my mom. Appointments no longer than I should. Between work, life, and everything else, it's easy to delay. ZocDoc makes this process simple. You can stretch by specialty or symptoms that actually build a care team that works for you. You can also read verified patient reviews so you feel confident choosing a doctor that you'll actually like. And whenever you want to go in person or do a video visit, ZocDoc makes it easy either way. So stop putting all those doctor appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. Today's episode is also brought to you by Wayfair. The new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easier to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh, all in one place, whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your work from home setup. Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and budget. I picked up new bedding and accent pillows from Wayfair, and it completely changed how my bedroom feels. It's cleaner, calmer, and more put together. It honestly makes me get back into a routine that's this new year feels a lot more manageable. So get organized, refreshed, and back on track this year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Welcome back to Locked On Wizards. I'm here with the great Greg Finberg. Talking about All-Star Weekend, Greg. We are at that point of the year. Are you as excited as you were 2016? Because I've gone to the point where the dunk contest peaked, the three-point competition, Trey Johnson's not in it, so it's going to be hard for us Wizards fans to watch. But, hey, we got some rising stars, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not as excited as 2016. Like, that was one of the best dunk contests and a good three-point contest. I think like there's some sort of celebrity three-point contest with like Jared McCain and a bunch of other celebrities that, I mean, I probably won't end up watching. Again, like I'm excited for the rising stars just because the Wizards will have 3 guys there, and I'm sure there'll be some media and some quotes you'll get to see from some of the guys. You have Trey Johnson, you have Keyshawn George, and now Bob Carrington, who's replacing Alex Sarr. So like a total of 4 Wizards being named to the Rising Stars game. I think that puts them 1 over Memphis for the most Rising Stars. Like it's pretty cool, and it's nice to see that the league is recognized. The Wizards obviously have a good young core, and they've drafted well the last 2 years. You know, that's all of their first round picks. I mean, not Will Riley, but again, he hadn't come on until later in the season. But 4 of their 5 first-round picks are in the Rising Stars game for the last 2 years. That's pretty good success rate, especially considering that Will Riley has been playing really well as well. And so I'm excited for it. Like there's different teams on the Rising Stars now, and it's a weird format. It's not just like a pickup game. So you'll get to see pretty extended minutes, I think, from all of them. I mean, hopefully they don't get hurt. That's the main thing. If you're the Wizards, that's probably why he's out 2 weeks with that right hamstring strain. So he's going to miss probably 5 or so games when he comes back. But excited to see them, on a national stage. They played on national TV a couple of games ago. I think it was Milwaukee, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And that was pretty cool to see just them on national TV. Pretty cool to see that. And so I'm not too excited about like the Rising Stars game by any means. I wouldn't watch it if it weren't for them. But definitely intrigued to see that they'll get some national recognition. Some guys will talk about them that typically don't talk about the Wizards. And maybe we'll get some other Wizards fans watching. I mean, what do you think, AB? You excited for it?
Honestly, Greg, when it comes to All-Star Weekend, I think the home run derby for the MLB is number one when it comes to the major leagues. The NFL and NBA, it's just every year it's somewhat gotten worse. I think in 2016, Draymond and Kevin Hart had a three-point competition too, if I'm not mistaken. So I know guys have egos. I always wanted to see guys play one-on-one, but I just know that's not going to happen. Maybe pig or horse, that would be entertaining, but it's just not that fun because I mean, look at last year, the skills competition, Greg. Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama they were tanking the game just so they could speed the game up and have a quicker time. To me, I don't know if there's a solution, and again, you're not going to abolish it because it's just tradition. I don't know. I don't know. Like, it's just not that entertaining. And obviously, as a Wizards fan, it's fun to see your guys play. But again, none of the big names want to do the dunk contest and the three-point competition. It's cool, but if it's not your favorite player or a guy on your favorite team, like what are we watching? And then defense, I think. What's the format this year? It's 3 teams, right? Great. I can't even keep up.
It's I know the All-Star game is World versus US, but they're also like people don't understand like the replacements. Like a guy out west will get injured and replaced by a guy in the East that's not even international. That's replacing an international. And then they just like will move Norman Powell, who's going to be on the U.S. team, I believe, to the international team. And now he's representing Jamaica on the international team. And it's just like there's not much structure to it. It seems like the NBA saw the 4 nations work really well for the NHL and just sort of was like, this is what some people want. We'll try it. They're just kind of throwing a bunch of stuff and just like hoping that something works. Because this is it's a unique format. It seems like every year now it's a new format. They're trying something new. And it's all because people and players just don't want to try. Like there isn't the edge or the ego there with players anymore, where it's like, I'm on a court with the best players in the world. I should want to dominate and I should want to showcase that I'm the best. And that's not the case anymore. I mean, guys are so concerned about the rest of the season, about, not getting injured, about their money and about their guarantees, that like they just don't, there's not incentive anymore, I guess, for them to really care. And so they don't. And so why would fans care when the players are tuned out? So maybe the US World thing is like interesting and maybe it works, but if it's anything like it's been the last couple of years, then I doubt it'll be that interesting or that entertaining.
What do you think of the idea of horse or pig?
I think it could be fun. It's just like you want to see the dunks. You'd want to see like the actual like action-packed play. I don't think anybody's going to tune in to see a game of a couple guys making or taking shots. I think that they have a game and play the game. If the players don't want to play, there's not really much that the NBA can do to incentivize them. They could put like a monetary prize. It seems like that sort of helps with like the NBA in-season tournament. But even with that, I feel like most guys don't really care about that either. So I don't really know what they can do. I think the players just got to try. And I mean, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, I will say though, I kind of made a mistake. I don't want to put the NBA and NFL when it comes to their All-Star select Pro Bowl / All-Star break on the same level. The NFL, it's a joke, Greg. I really don't, outside of my 11-year-old brother that watches the Pro Bowl, and probably that's the audience, I don't know any grown man that watches NFL Pro Bowl. It's nothing. At least in the NBA, you can see the big names and your favorite teams, and we're going to be able to see Keyshawn, Bub, and Trey. So with that being said, I think we're going to end it off today. Greg, I appreciate you coming on. I know Ben was sick. Hopefully he comes back, heals. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks, AB. Again, thanks for having me on. Hopefully, Ben is all good for the next episode, but it was nice to fill in and be able to talk Wizards basketball with you as always, AB. You can find a lot of my written work on Bullets Forever. We do a lot of Wizard stuff, break a lot of news at there. So you can check us out at bulletsforever.com. And then for me, you can follow me on Twitter at Greg Finberg. A lot of Wizard stuff, breaking news, all that there. And then the Wizards podcast is where you can find some of my podcasting stuff. Typically record after every game. We'll probably have a couple episodes out throughout the All-Star break as well. But just trying to be like my friends over here at Locked On Wizards, trying to be consistent, and that's the name of the game. So again, thanks for having me on as always, AB.
No, of course, this was awesome talking about Tony Kornheiser's comments. Let us know in the comment section, should the Wizards be shamed for tanking? Obviously not. Greg and I do not agree with Tony's comments. Let us know if there's a solution for tanking and what are some things you're looking forward to All-Star Week. I mean, the Wizards aren't playing, so for those fans that watch every game, you take a break from watching our beloved Washington Wizards. And we also thank you for tuning into the Locked On Wizards. Make sure you subscribe and follow the Locked On Wizards so you can get all of the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everyday Club is built for you. Get Locked On Wizards ad-free plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonwizards.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel on audio. Make sure you make your second listen NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. All right, folks, All-Star Weekend is here. That is Greg Finberg. I am Abdullah Ayubi, and I am trying to find the outro music. With that being said, hail to the Wizards. We're out.